Okay, welcome to Elephant Room. This is my first interview. It's going to be with Pat Huntley, Paddy, as I lovingly call him. It's about 2016, the year that I almost took my own life accidentally. However, you'll find out that I was in a pretty dark place, and as was Paddy. However, he gained the courage to help save my life and called the paramedics in, and I'm here because of him. So please enjoy, and yeah, I'll see you at the other end on this
Done.
computer. I actually started recording, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
How you been?
yeah, pretty good, mate. How's Gladstone treating you?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, hilariously, I think it's where I'm going to end up now. Like pre-COVID,
Yeah,
I had my life planned to where I'd end up, but the baby boomers put a stop to that.
yeah, yeah,
Everywhere I wanted, they just like went full locust on. So I'm pretty lucky. I got the house here really cheap. So really, this is probably the cheapest coastal town I
yeah,
could retire in. So
yeah, yeah,
it's gone from the pragmatic choice to home, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah,
Hilarious.
yeah. Because you've been there a while now, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I moved up here 2015. Did that year in 2011 when the boom
Yeah,
happened, and that's when I got the transfer to Fish Island.
yeah, yeah,
And then I come back in 2015.
yeah.
And that's Millie in the background, if you can hear her. Millie, got it
That's your
ragdoll.
that's your cat.
Yes.
I didn't know whether this is going to work, mate, because I don't have very good internet here because I'm up in the
Oh, yeah, yeah,
fields
you're
up
right.
here at
Yeah,
Copperbella,
I
but
figured.
seems to be working, which is great.
Yeah. So
Well,
I figured I'd full hermit and get the cat. Like my barber broke up with her hubby or partner, and I ended up getting the ragdoll in the
yeah, right.
divorce.
Yeah, yeah, cool, bros. Well, how long's it
Yeah.
been? 2016.
Um, yeah, I probably last time I saw you would have been when I left. So that would have been probably about 2014. But yeah,
Yeah,
2016 since we last spoke.
2016 is
So
the
yeah,
elephant in the room, mate, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
a hilarious that one.
Hey,
So that was a hilarious year. That one, like
well, not really.
that was. Yeah, well, I mean, for me as well, it was like the beginning of the breakdown of my marriage. So
Yeah,
I was sort of absolutely at bottom too. I kind of, what's this thing, Millie? Um, yeah, I was, I guess, yeah, I was just in that point of like, what the hell, what the hell am I doing with my life? So yeah, it
yeah,
was pretty bad.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
So, thanks for being my first ever guest on Elephant Room, bro. So this actually came to me. This whole idea came to me, if you don't mind me sharing, was walking up a hill actually in Gladstone.
Yeah,
Mount,
right.
what's that Mount bloody? It's about 20 minutes
Not,
out of
not
yeah,
Mount
Mount
Larkham.
Larkham. And the locals were telling me
Yes.
because I was there doing onboarding in Gladstone, the Gladstone Depot there for a PN, and
Yeah.
I was speaking to the locals. They're going, "Oh yeah, it only take about half an hour, 40 minutes to climb that bad boy." I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, no worries." So I went out during the
Yeah.
day, no water,
It
and
was evil.
started
It's
climbing
evil.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I literally like got to the top. I was going to turn around. I was at that point of I could have turned around early, but I thought, no, I'm halfway up.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to keep going, right? Got to the top, sat at
I
the
know.
top, had a bit of a view. And then as I'm walking down, mate, I was just wiped out, completely
Oh,
wiped
yeah.
out. And
Evil.
yeah,
And this bit is a guy I used to work with. He's a snake catcher. So whenever he caught a snake, like, he would release them pretty much at the base of that
yeah,
mountain.
right.
I'm like, dude, you're going to kill a German. Like, what the hell are
Yeah,
you doing? Like,
yeah,
it was just, that was his happy spot to release his snakes. And I'm going,
yeah, yeah.
this is a weekend activity.
Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
why are
Yeah,
you doing?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
So it was while I was
uh,
hallucinating on the way down,
my
that this
nose
came
was
to me. Literally,
Yeah,
man. And then
burning
like
bush.
I was so dehydrated, brother. I was like I had to sit down. I'd take like 10 or 20 steps, and I'd have to rest on the way down. It was that bad.
I can imagine it is. I've never done it, but I
Yeah,
know how evil it is.
yeah,
Like, you know,
yeah,
people come down because everyone thinks it's going to be like going up Mount Morning, and
yeah,
it's like, no, dude, it's
yeah,
like it. Yeah, it's there's nothing,
yeah.
and there's not even really much shade, anything.
No, there's not.
It's just,
No.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
I got fried, and anyway, this came to this elephant room, like, wanting to just talk about people's stuff, and I thought, well,
yeah,
what better way to start than addressing, I guess, my elephant in the room, what happened back in 2016, and you being on the other side of that, and I guess I've never had this opportunity to say thank you for saving my life, brother.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was pretty touch and go because like you you were kind of reaching out to a guy who was in a very similar position.
Yeah,
So I didn't see saving you as a good thing necessarily. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
just like, oh my God, he is brave enough to end the pain.
yeah,
Like, so I was probably, of all of the life rafts you could cling to, I was the one with the hole in it with no
yeah.
ration
Wow.
pack. And yeah, so like I was, and it was funny because it all started with you were asking about possibilities of transfers up here,
Yeah.
and I sent you on because I'd spoke to Dan, who was my boss at the time, and we're good mates. And I said,
Mm,
look, I've got this awesome guy from Fish Island. He'd be one, if you could get him here, you'd be getting one of the good ones. And he said it doesn't look like we're going to be doing any recruiting or transfers for like 2 or 3 years.
yeah.
And I'm like, God. So I'd messaged you, and then um, you messaged back. I was actually preparing for a night shift, and I went to sleep, and you sent a message, and I read it, and I put my phone down.
Mm,
Then I just laid there for like maybe 10 minutes. I think I even went to sleep for a little bit, and then
yeah.
I just went, no, you need to read that message again. And I read it again. I still can't remember what it was, but it was enough to. I don't know. It just was enough to, it was like a alarm bell, and I'm like, going, what did he mean by that? I just couldn't really understand. So I rung,
Mm,
and then you picked up, and that's when it all started. And
yeah.
you'd already taken the medication that you had from
Yeah.
the shoulder,
Back.
from the
Yeah.
pain
Yeah.
management you had. And yeah, so I was just like, oh God. And then yeah, so you were sort of going through, I've had enough, I'm tapping out, or that's kind of thing. And I'm like going, like seriously, it wasn't like I'm going to stop this, I've got to save you. I was like, oh man, I wish I was that brave. And that's how
Yeah. Right.
touch and go. I was very much like, dude, I guess, having daughters and
Yeah.
that, like, one of the worst statistics you can have for a child, if one of your parents has committed suicide, you're like, the chances of you going down that path is, it's exponential. Like
Yeah.
it goes through the roof that you will take that path as well. So in the back of my mind, in my darkest moments, that's one of the things where I've gone, I can't put them at risk. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and funnily enough, that was when you basically fell asleep on the phone. It was your daughter that sort of, I guess, kicked my butt into action. And that's when I just was like, oh God, because you had you said, you've got to promise me you won't stop this. You've got to
Yeah.
let
So I
me
don't
go.
even
And
remember that, eh? I don't even remember
I
that.
promised. I went, don't worry, man, I've got your back. And
Yeah.
and you're talking to a really mentally
Yeah.
health-wise, at my lowest point. And I was like, don't
Mm,
worry, I've got you. I'll at least let you have your dignity. Um, and then when you basically went to sleep on the phone, my thought was of your daughter, and I know
yeah.
you guys have an amazing relationship. And I'm like
Yeah.
going, I'm like 5 days away from being at your funeral, like cowering, hoping she doesn't know I was on the other end of the
Yeah,
phone.
bro. Yeah.
And that's when I went, nah, you got to do something. And that's why I got help. And of course, I didn't know where you lived,
Mm,
so I had to ring work, get them to organise the ambulance. So,
mm,
um, and to this day, one of the one of the most horrific moments of my life was afterwards. I think you were still at the hospital, and you'd been stabilized and everything, and you'd spoken to people. You said, "Can you please not tell work?" And I'm like, I had a bowling ball in my throat, mate. I'm just going like, "Oh God." That
No,
was my
you need to do it.
only.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, and so I'm sitting there, you know, I was just got through the whole, oh God, you know, like, you know, I knew you'd sort of, they'd helped and all that, because I rang back Fish Island and everything. And then when you said that, it was like the double whammy. It's like, not only did I break my
Yeah.
promise,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I've like, it was just horrendous. So like, definitely not one aspect of that did I ever feel like I was doing the right thing. I felt like I
Yeah.
betrayed you
Yeah.
twice,
Yeah.
you know, like in 2 days. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's nuts. So
Well, bro,
there you go.
I got to say, from my heart to yours, like you definitely didn't betray me. Like, you know, my life
Oh
is,
yeah, I know, but
you know, but like because you know, selfish of me, like I had no clue that that's what you were going through. Like I knew you were going through stuff with your marriage and that sort of thing, but I had no clue
yeah,
that
yeah.
you were down the rabbit hole as well. And from my
Oh, like
perspective,
100%.
like before, I I remember I was just wanting to take some tablets just to get rid of pain in my body, right? It wasn't a like
Yeah,
when I that night when it first started. So from my perspective, it was just like I just want to sit with no pain in my body just for 5 minutes, you know. And then
yeah,
of course took a couple of tablets, and then while it's still there, and then I'm drinking wine at the same time, and then you know one bottle of wine goes down, more pills go down, and then I think that was the point when I think you and I then started the conversations.
yeah.
And
That's
I
right.
can't
And
remember how many tablets I took, but I know it was enough to take me out. And I'm
yeah,
not sure if you
and that's
noticed because I don't think we've spoken, but I I was I don't know probably about 18 months after I met this bird, and she was an ambo, a paramedic,
yeah.
and she was like, "Did I tell you this or not?"
You messaged something about the other day, but yeah, like
Yeah, so she like I don't know, she was kind of stood down for I don't know some sort of reasons, but she had a pretty high clearance in there. So I asked her if she
yeah,
could actually go back and see that night in 2016 if I actually did tip over the edge, and it
yeah,
turns out
okay,
that I
yeah,
was resuscitated, bro.
yeah, right. And
So
yeah, well, I'm not surprised because like when you stopped talking, it was like you know how there's like, you know, ever like, I mean, you've heard people fall asleep and you can hear the breathing change. Like yours was different. It wasn't
yeah,
like sleep breath. It was like really that ultra, you know, because like opioids, you know, you go into that respiratory, like really ultra shallow breathing, and I could hear it, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, you know, like I was like, I got to do something now. If I'm doing something, I've got to do it right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
And yeah, it was crazy. Like it was absolutely crazy. So, and it, you know, and it was one of those things like, um, yeah, if it wasn't for the conversations you had about your daughter,
mm,
and really the great relationship you have with your ex as well, like you still
yeah,
are very much a family in
yeah,
many
yeah, yeah,
ways,
definitely.
um, and yeah, like and that was the, you know, probably the same thing that's always been the, you know, I guess my void to cling to, which is like I can't do that to my daughters. I can't put them
Mm,
at risk.
yeah,
It was the same thing, and you know, if we hadn't had so many shifts together where you
yeah,
know we'd open up, spoke, I wouldn't have
yeah,
had that reference point of your daughter to go. She needs me like
yeah,
right now. She needs me. Like, you know, you're suffering. You're a wounded animal that just wants
yeah,
the pain to stop, which I completely got. And that for me, it's like, you know, like when you know someone that you care about, or something you care about, is in that much pain, you just want the suffering to stop. And
yeah, yeah,
when you're feeling the same pain, you're not really going, oh cool. What he actually needs is to, you know, speak to someone, probably get on medication to
yeah,
get back to a baseline, and then, and then sort everything out. Like, because when you're in the same spot, all you're thinking is like, man, wouldn't that be awesome if a bus just like took me out tomorrow?
Yeah,
It'd
yeah,
be
yeah,
so good. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? You're not
yeah.
actually, at that point, you don't have um, the cognitive ability to sort of go, man, we both need help. Like, we should be
Mm,
talking to someone. So,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, like, and yeah, so that sort of, so it was just really, one of the biggest things was really the relationship that you have with your daughter and
yeah,
your ex. I just knew like I was going to be accountable to them for doing nothing. And even though I could have justified it to myself, like letting you go, knowing how much pain you're in, it really, yeah, that was the thing. That was the thing that I just sort of went, crap, I'm going to have to, everything I just promised I wouldn't do, I'm now going to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super grateful, mate. Like, and you know, I think about shut that up. Sorry, that was my phone. Um, yeah, like I think about from there to now and where I'm at now, and things like COVID and all those sorts of things that hit and pretty much smashed me in the face again. And
Yeah.
I think if like my journey from 2016 through to now was I ended up going into corrections and kind of working as a trade instructor there and also just a normal correctional officer.
Yep.
And then COVID
Oh
hit,
wow.
and you know, like I just went into all these situations that I had to be a strong person, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And it
Yep.
wasn't until I actually 2020 that I discovered plant medicines, and that was ayahuasca. And I took
Yeah.
ayahuasca 2020 was
Yep.
Australia Day 2020. I remember, so just before all COVID hit. And mate, I've got to be honest, it took all the depression and anxiety and all those things out of me that weekend that I did ayahuasca. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well, I
took me
mean,
on this journey to
yeah.
just really open myself up from my heart space and understand that there's one
Mm,
thing going on in this world, I feel, and that is that men struggle to talk the real stuff, right? We bottle things down, and I think I was guilty of that, and it sounds like you're a bit guilty of that as well. So
yeah. Well,
how
100%.
did
Right.
you? I've got another question for you, brother, because not only did you have to go through that, you promised something to me in my darkest hours, and you made the decision, being in one of your darkest hours at the same time, to then make the call, and then you had that lump in the throat when I said you please don't tell work, but work was done for me anyway because it was a horrific place to work, as you know.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
It like, I mean, I was in the same boat. I just had to go.
yeah,
It was just,
yeah, yeah. Just had to get out of there really. So it was really a saving grace, to be fair. So I want to ask you, like, how did you pull yourself out of where you were at, those years ago, and now where you're at now? Did
um,
you seek help, or did you just kind of do it yourself? Like, did you go to the gym? What were you
no,
doing? Talking to men?
I just wrote it out really. Like I was in that situation where, I was like, um, it's when you're single income and you're paying a lot of child support, you don't really have a lot of spare cash to spend on yourself.
Yeah,
Like, and I did. I really sort of thought I really probably need to go and talk to a professional and sort through these issues. But I guess I'm in that situation where I'm on quite a quite a high income, so I get zero help from government services.
mm,
But I'm also in a situation where I'm on a single income, and I lovingly pay child support. It's
yeah,
not like I sit there and go, oh my god, it's the only money that comes out of my bank that I actually enjoy giving because I know
yeah,
it's
yeah,
going to people. Um, so yeah, there's not a lot left over to do the luxury things like stop yourself being depressed.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I think I just wrote it out. To be quite honest, I really, and look, to be honest, I think the experience with you as well was was something that I guess made me have a look at like, okay, like what are you doing for yourself? What? Because literally at that point, all I was doing was just working, sending money home, and sleeping and eating.
Yeah.
Like I was doing nothing for myself. I really was in that position where I and look, I've struggled my whole life with worthiness issues, and
Yeah.
I've always put myself last and put everyone else first, because I never really felt worthy of being the front of the queue. But probably from that moment on, I actually started doing things. Because at that point I was almost, other than work, leaving the house was quite stressful.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't completely agoraphobic, but I wasn't far off of it. Like I couldn't really handle going into anywhere busy. Like I knew the times of the day when you could go to the supermarket and there'd be the least amount of people there. And
Yeah.
I was just like the king of just avoiding the public. And from with what happened to you, I did actually start forcing myself to do stuff. Like I would literally just drive to the beach and go for like a 30-minute walk. I was going to the gym. And I think just doing those little things made me feel like I needed to seek more joy in my life, and possibly maybe I'm worthy of a little bit of joy. So yeah, that's sort of how I pulled myself out of it. But I've been
Yeah, bros.
clear they're very similar.
Yeah.
When you look at the chemical structure of psilocybin, which is basically magic mushroom.
Yeah. Hey, Paddy, I could not hearing you here, bros. Damn it.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
there you go.
Yeah. So, what I was saying before it dropped out was psilocybin and ayahuasca are chemically very similar. Like
Yeah.
the basic molecule is virtually the same shape, with slight variations of the some of the chemicals coming off of it, basically. And what they've found with psilocybin is it's been great for remapping the brain. So,
Yeah.
especially like with chronic depression, because like generally we are very repetitive in the way we behave. So when we see something like a trigger or a situation, immediately we just use the map that we've already created millions of times and go and have the same feelings, same thoughts, same emotions, same everything. And what they've found with psilocybin and ayahuasca is that it's almost like having a really, really heavily forged path, which leads to depressive thoughts in your brain. And it's almost like those chemicals put a layer of snow on top of it. So from that moment, you're able to actually create new pathways and think about things differently. And and the only problem with it from a pharmacological point of view is one dose will fix it. And like for drug companies, that's not a great business model.
Yeah, that's right.
Like it's a great model for the patient, but in terms of making money, it really isn't. So it's interesting that that's what you identify as pulling you out. Like
Definitely did.
because I have watched a few documentaries on those things, and it's really interesting. And they're starting to use MDMA for PTSD. A lot of return servicemen are now getting sort of treatments for that, along with therapy, and it's successful. And what they're finding, psilocybin, which chemically is very similar to ayahuasca, is it's great for chronic depression and also substance abuse, which again, I guess depression is a bit addictive, you know, like
Yeah,
it
that's right.
has this like it's you just get this, you know, like you know, like it's great being able to pick the most negative things going to happen and predict
Yeah,
it and feel somehow, you know,
empowered.
happily, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, right. See, I knew my life was garbage, and that was what's going to
that's
happen.
right.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's finding it's like basically wiping those paths and going right. Let's form some new ways of seeing things, which
yeah,
you know it's exciting. So yeah, there you go.
yeah, bro. So, Paddy,
Thank God for hippie,
thank you,
medicine.
bro. Thank you for saving my life, mate. I know that you maybe
Oh
don't look at it that way, but you did.
yeah,
And you know, I think back to when I was in the prison system working there. We had a guy who had so much front. You know, like you would think that he was the most confident person on the planet.
yeah.
And
Which was you for me. You're
yeah,
like
yeah,
to me. I was
yeah,
always like, man, you know, yeah. I just thought, wow, you know, you've just got it all. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
But
it's
anyway, sorry.
interesting because you kind of never know. And I remember that one fella who does hypnosis for a living,
Yeah.
he talked about, you know, the more front someone has, the more back they have. So the more stuff they got going on
Oh,
behind the
100%.
scenes,
Yeah.
you know, that's just kind of
Yeah.
underneath it. So my question to you is this, mate: would you do it all over again? Save a life?
Oh yeah, 100%. I just would have. I afterwards. I think I actually found your address on mypages.com, so I probably would have just done that.
Yeah, but
So
everything was divinely fucking perfect, mate. I got to be honest.
yeah,
Like,
I
you
know.
know,
Look,
that job I had to get
I
out of anyway.
remember. I remember when I was at Fish Island, I did have moments where I just thought it was so soul crushing to work there,
It
and
was.
there was there was some good aspects to it, and but like there was just times where I thought if I got sacked, I know I'd be happier.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I'd have less, be happier, and it was one of those things. And I guess my eject button was Calamonda, and because I'd worked up here before, I knew they had a better roster, and for better or for worse, I knew I'd be in a better situation in some aspects. Unfortunately, I think leaving the family to come up was a bad idea.
yeah,
And but look, nobody goes and lives away from their family who's in a marriage which is amazing. Like,
yeah,
and I know in my first marriage, I joined the Navy, and we broke up not long after that. And you know, I think really joining the Navy probably might have even lengthened it a little, like
yeah,
pre-divorce. So
yeah,
just
yeah,
having
yeah,
time apart, but
yeah,
um, and yeah, and same as coming up here, I felt like pretty much I didn't exist in that relationship, and you know they're my things. You know that's not a that's my reality. It's not their
yeah,
reality,
yeah,
and yeah, I felt like, well, at least I can give them more money and they'll have a better
yeah,
life. And,
yeah,
you know, and they won't even notice I'm not there. So,
yeah,
and that's kind of how I lived. Like, I think in my first year, I went home maybe 3 times, um, 4 times maybe. Yeah. And, you know, and it was just not enough. I think the big thing for me was the last time I went home, I looked around the house and I thought, man, if I wasn't in like 2 photos, there would be no evidence
yeah,
of
yeah,
my existence.
yeah,
I
yeah,
literally was like, you know, I just, and, you know, and that was, that's the sign of a depressed guy. Like I chose to be disengaged and
yeah,
let be a passive a whole life in my,
yeah,
sorry, in my life. That's kind of what you do. You
mm,
know, but yeah, so and yeah, and like I said, I was sort of going through that at the time, and that's why it was, you know, it was really ultra hard to. I didn't feel like I was helping. I felt like, man,
yeah,
you know, I'm gonna
yeah,
basically send people around, and the pain will continue for you. And it's like, damn it.
yeah,
But like I said, it was really, you know, it was the other people in your life that I was saving from
yeah,
pain. So
it's funny,
yeah,
Paddy, because I don't remember the conversations because it was obviously drifting in and out, right? And I don't
yeah,
remember having the thought of I'm going to end my life,
mm,
all that sort of stuff. It just kind of happened, if that makes sense.
yeah, that's
Although you have told me, you have told me that on the other end of the phone I was saying that I want to go.
yeah, yeah,
And look, deep down underneath all of that stuff, it was probably my truth, to be fair, and it's probably been my truth for a long time. So
yeah,
I've got a question, mate. We got like 6.5 minutes left, right? But we can do another recording if you want to straight after this.
yeah, yeah,
But if if you were to give advice, right? Because I think I think if you look at the stats, and I don't know the stats, so I won't say them, but I know that men's depression certainly rising, and men's suicide certainly rising, and not only men, women as well. If you were
yeah,
to give
yeah,
advice, because you're in a pretty sticky situation, and I'd ask you not to say anything through my conversations, if you were to give some advice to people that may suspect that they've got a friend, family member, whatever, that's a little bit depressed and they don't know how to reach out to them, what would you say? What would your advice be, mate? Because you're someone who has saved a life in this regard, and
yeah.
and
I don't know. Look, in all honesty, I could have easily gone to sleep when you sent the message
yeah,
about your reaction to not having an opportunity for a transfer. I really, 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 really was lucky that I just rolled over and went, I need to read that message again. It's like, look, the problem is, like, when like, everyone thinks they're quite instinctive and they've got really good instincts, and um, they're quite clever at I guess reading situations. But sometimes, especially if you're living in an anxiety state, everything feels like you know it's it's divine intervention. Oh,
yeah,
I don't feel like playing stops, maybe I shouldn't go, like, or whatever. But in that situation, I just went, I need to reread that message again. When I read it, it wasn't like a message like, you know, tell my family I love them. It was nothing that dramatic. It was just something.
mm,
I honestly don't know what the message was, but it
yeah,
was just something subtle that I went, what does that mean? And I just went, I let it ring, and I just knew I had to ring it. And um, look, all I would do is, if the one piece of advice I would say is, if there's something in your gut saying there's something not right, or just ask, like, and be open, and because there's a lot of shame that comes from depression, especially as a man, because
for
you feel
sure.
like, like we take on lots of roles, but one of the main roles, especially men with families and children, is like, you want to be a superhero, and that's just a fantasy. No one is that. So when you're struggling, you just feel like, you don't feel like you need help. You feel like you're failing, and
Yeah,
and it feeds into your I'm worthless dialogue. It
yeah,
actually just, and depression's a hungry beast. It just wants to be fed. Like,
it does.
yeah, I would honestly, I would, if you feel like you should ask,
Yeah,
like, because you just kick yourself forever.
yeah,
So
100%. Yeah. Well, mate, I'm super grateful that you had enough courage to make the call that you did. Um,
yeah,
because
well,
I wouldn't be now. I wouldn't
it's
have the relationship I've
one
got with
where,
my daughter, brother. Like it's a really, like, my relationship with my daughter. She's doing great, guns. She's overseas, living her biggest
oh,
life, and
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So without you, kind of dropping into your true masculine and going, you know what, I've got to save my mate here. He's in pain. I know he doesn't want me to, and for you to be in that state yourself, not in the best
yeah,
state, and then to stand up and be a true champion and a true warrior man is, my hat's off to you, brother. And from my
yeah.
heart
Well,
to
it's
yours, man. I'm super grateful and eternally grateful to you, and I'm glad that we've had an opportunity to finally talk about it in this forum. And who
yeah,
knows, mate? Like,
no,
this could save, just one person might just start a dialogue with someone.
oh,
Well,
100%. And
probably only going to be
yeah,
five
look,
people that see this, but that's all right.
or maybe one of us become famous, and it'll be, But yeah, no, but look, it was one of those things. I've always known I did the right thing, but
Yeah,
it
good.
wasn't like, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was like, it was just bittersweet because again, a lot of it was to do with if I was at the point I am now, it'd be so easy. It'd be like,
Yeah,
you know, when you said I'm going to get help, it'd be like I would just say to you, Gav, mate, like,
yeah,
no, like,
yeah,
you know, I'm getting help. Like, you need help. Like, it would
yeah.
just be, you know. But where I was then, I really just felt, you know, I was just like, man, I just was. It was completely. I didn't have to walk in your shoes. I was in your shoes. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I'm glad, and like I said, you know, can you imagine the effect that would have had on your
Oh,
daughter, your ex, and all that? Like that's the sort of thing that could change her life forever, and she
mm,
wouldn't be living, you know,
that's right.
the amazing life. So
That's right.
no, I'm yeah. And look, man, like out of everyone I've ever met in my life, you're probably the person most worthy of saving. Like I
Thanks,
remember
brother.
you know, you're
Yeah,
always been one of those guys I've always looked up to, you know, and when I found out you were sad, it was shocking. Like it really
yeah,
was. Cause you know, you were like, you know, to me, you were like the guy that had it all, you know, you were the superhero. And I was like, oh man, you know, it'd be so cool being Gav, you know, rather than being depressed and
I
sad.
appreciate it, mate. But yeah,
So yeah, but yeah, it was really, you know, anyway, but yeah, no, look, I'm just, you know, my cat is just like she wants to be an outdoor cat, and I keep
yeah.
telling her I'm too young to be granddaddy. So no, yeah,
Too funny, mate.
yeah. Look, man, yeah, and it's really good to hear from you. Like
Yeah,
you know, I do miss you. Like you, like I
yeah,
said, out
absolutely,
of
man.
Colin, you were the one time when I hit that free button on TCAS, I'd go
Yeah,
Gav, and it was like, oh, awesome.
yeah,
It
same,
was, you know,
same. Yeah,
it
we
was
had great,
because that
great
was
old time on the train, Russ. Heaps of fun.
the scariest time of my life back then was hitting 3 on TCAS. It was
Yeah.
like, what
Hey, that was Elephant Room. What's yours? Um, you know, basically it cut off a bit short there, and I do apologise for that. But I hope you enjoyed that. Paddy was pretty raw then, and yeah, I love the guy. He's just a amazing fella. And as you heard, he had to kind of fight some demons himself, and I'm just grateful that he made the decision to make the call that he did. So yeah, if you know of anyone, or if you, like you said in the video, if you get a feeling that someone might not be feeling well, it's just, you know, raise the conversation. Just have the conversation with someone. You never know, you might save a life yourself. And I'm extremely grateful, and I can't wait to catch up with him. Actually, it's been too many years gone by. Um, so yeah, thanks again, Paddy, and thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed, and please share, like, whatever you need to do on this YouTube stuff. But look out for the next video. That was my first one, raw as, and it's always going to be raw as because I feel it's better. Anyway, enjoy.